What if gunpowder and gun-powered weapons were never invented? What if one discovery never happened? No gunpowder, no firearms, no cannons, no bombs tearing through cities. Just a world where explosive force was never unlocked by human hands. It's difficult to imagine because gunpowder doesn't just power weapons. It reshaped history, borders, empires, and the balance of power itself. So let's step into a different timeline. A world where gunpowder was never invented. What would war look like? Who would hold power? And would humanity be safer or simply violent in different ways? Before gunpowder, warfare was deeply personal. Battles were fought face to face. Soldiers looked directly at the people they fought. Victory required strength, endurance, training, and coordination. Weapons were limited by human reach. Swords, spears, bows, shields. Even the most advanced weapons still relied on muscle, skill, and proximity. Without gunpowder, this never changes. No weapon could kill from hundreds of meters away with a simple trigger pull. To fight, you had to approach. To conquer, you had to endure. This alone would reshape human conflict. In this world, armies remain smaller. Because training a skilled fighter takes time, because battles are exhausting, because death is slower and harder to deliver. Mass slaughter becomes logistically difficult. Wars still happen, but they unfold differently. Sieges last longer. Battles rely on strategy rather than shock and firepower. Cities aren't flattened in hours. Without cannons, walls still matter. Castles remain powerful. Fortified cities dominate landscapes. Architecture evolves around defense rather than concealment. Instead of open cities vulnerable to artillery, we see thick stone walls, narrow gates, layered defenses. Empires expand slowly. Conquest becomes costly. Without explosive weapons, it takes years, not weeks, to break resistance. This discourages endless expansion. Power shifts towards stability rather than domination. Now imagine politics in this world. Gunpowder allowed rulers to centralize power. Firearms made it possible to control large populations with fewer soldiers. Without them, authority depends on loyalty, alliances, and legitimacy. Kings and leaders must maintain trust. Because a rebellion armed with blades and bows can still succeed. Power becomes fragile. Governments must negotiate more. Social contracts matter. Oppression becomes riskier. Now consider how this changes technology. Without gunpowder driving warfare, innovation moves elsewhere. Engineering focuses on defense, transportation, communication, and survival. Ships become stronger, faster, and more maneuverable because naval battles rely on boarding rather than cannons. Armor improves. Material science advances through protection, not destruction. Mechanical ingenuity thrives in tools, machines, and infrastructure. Instead of explosives reshaping landscapes, humans reshape environments through labor and design. Mining still exists, but without blasting powder, it is slower and more precise. This limits how quickly resources are extracted. Industrial growth is steadier, less violent, less destructive. Now let's talk about violence itself. Does a gunpowder-free world mean peace? No. Humans still fight, but violence has friction. To harm someone requires effort, risk, exposure. This changes psychology. Distance dulls empathy. Gunpowder created distance between action and consequence. Without it, violence remains intimate. This alone reduces its frequency. Not because humans become better, but because killing is harder. Now imagine crime. No firearms in civilian hands. Self-defense looks different. Security relies on community, presence, and prevention rather than force escalation. Conflicts are less likely to turn instantly fatal. Mistakes are survivable. Fear still exists, but not the sudden, irreversible kind created by explosive weapons. Now consider global history. Without gunpowder, colonial expansion slows dramatically. Invading distant lands without overwhelming firepower is dangerous. Local populations retain military parity. Empires must integrate rather than dominate. Cultures mix more gradually. Genocides become harder to execute. History becomes less explosive, but not less complex. Now think about modern times in this alternate world. There are still wars, but no airstrikes, no missile launches, no instant annihilation. Conflicts rely on manpower, logistics, and morale. This makes war expensive in time, not just resources. Diplomacy becomes more valuable because war is slow, and slow wars force negotiation. Now consider the most terrifying consequence of gunpowder: the chain reaction it enabled. Explosives led to bigger weapons. Bigger weapons led to industrialized killing. Industrialized killing led to weapons capable of ending civilization. Without gunpowder, that chain is broken. No bombs, no rockets, no nuclear weapons. The concept of instant global destruction never emerges. Humanity lives without the constant shadow of self-annihilation that alone changes our collective mindset. Fear becomes local, not existential. Now let's be honest. This world is not peaceful. Humans still compete, still dominate, still harm. But violence has limits again. Limits shaped by physics, not ambition. Without gunpowder, power depends on people, not triggers. Leadership matters more than firepower. Wisdom matters more than fear. So what if gunpowder and gun-powered weapons were never invented? Human history would be slower, messier, more personal, less explosive but still dangerous, and maybe, just maybe, a world where destruction required effort would be a world where humanity chose it more carefully. The real question isn't whether gunpowder made us powerful. It's whether it made us forget how fragile we truly are. Stay curious.